Hey, how well here. What I want to do today is make a brief video. I've done this one before, but on Mother Mary and Miriam in the Old Testament, in the Koran, but I want to make this one a bit more succinct, shorter and more succinct. So the title is The Koran Does Get It Right, about Mother Mary of the Gospels and Miriam of the Old Testament, of the Exodus story. They are one of the same character. There is no confusion. So what happens is that critics of Islam, whether it be Christians or ex-Muslims or atheists or whatever, what they do is they say, well, if the Quran portrays itself 100% the word of Allah, it's open to scrutiny and analysis, and it shouldn't have any historical errors in it. And therefore we find this major error that the Quran thinks that Mother Mary is Miriam of the Old Testament and that they're one and the same character. So the reason why I challenge this is that, it's the research material of Ahmad Osman, a really brilliant Egyptian researcher that brought me onto this. But just to begin with, you've got a book by Sigmund Freud called Moses and a monotheism. And what he does, he looks at the life of Moses and says Moses' life is so similar to Akhenaten, that's a pharaoh of the 18th dynasty in Egypt, that Moses must have been inspired by Akhenaten, and they're both historical figures. Ahmad Osman takes that one step further, where he believes that because the story of Akhenaten and Moses is so similar, that Moses is Akhenaten. Moses is a mythical figure based on the historical pharaoh. And that Moses is Akhenaten's wife, Nefertiti, is Miriam of the Exodus story. And perhaps harder to believe then is that their son Tutankhamun, King Tut, is Jesus. And what he uses to strengthen that argument is that there's references to the Trinity with King Tut and descending into the underworld and ascending into the afterlife afterwards, and in the afterlife like a resurrection. But I want to focus mainly on Miriam here. So, and remember that the word Mary in English, Maria in Greek, Maryam in Arabic, Miriam in Hebrew, is based on the Egyptian word Mary, meaning beloved. Nefertiti, who Ahmad Osman cites as Miriam, was referred to as Mary as well. And to me, it implies a beloved mother. And now this link between ancient Egypt and the Bible is fairly occulted and occluded, and it's coming to light recently. But the link between the Quran and the Bible is nothing's hidden, basically. Like Amran is Imran, Aaron of the Old Testament is Heron in the Quran, Moses, of the Torah is Musa in the Quran. So if I take you to a verse which is referring to Imran and Hannah, so they're the parents of Miriam, and it says, "O sister of Aaron," obviously referring to Miriam, "thy father was not evil," I'm reading this, "nor was thy mother a harlot or unchaste," meaning that they were good people. And then Allah prophesies it's going to be a girl. It's not born of divine conception, it's prophesied, rather like in the same way that John the Baptist is prophesied. And the word they use there for harlot, unchaste, is bagyan. And I prefer the translation harlot there because chaste, unchaste, chastity has been used elsewhere in the Quran to refer to divine conception. And Miriam is not born of divine conception. But when we go to the Surah At-Talim, and I'm reading it again, we can see that Miriam gets pregnant with a boy, becomes pregnant with a boy, and that is through divine conception. So Surah 66, verse 12, "And Mary, daughter of Imran, she guarded her chastity, so we breathed into her our spirit." And Allah tells her it's going to be a boy, Isa, the anointed one, the Messiah. And then later in elsewhere in the Surah of Maryam, a messenger of Allah says, Miriam says to a messenger of Allah, how can I have a son when no mortal has touched me, neither have I been unchaste? Now, when Muslims are confronted, and I've confronted Muslims about this confusion, and they, instead of saying no, the Quran gets it right, Maryam is Mother Mary. What they do is say, no. It's almost like they accept that there was a Mother Mary living at the time of 0 BC and was the father of Isa or Jesus. And they go, what it refers to is the line of Imran and Hannah back in the Exodus story, where really, when you look at it, and you look at the verses in the Quran, you can see it's Imran, Hannah gives birth to Miriam. Miriam gets pregnant through divine conception, has a boy, and the boy is named Isa, Jesus, the anointed one. It's a really clear line. And it's hard to believe that could be anything like some random chaotic error. It just doesn't look like it. What is mysterious is the fact that the Quran doesn't say that the Gospels, the Injil as they call them, it gets it wrong. That Mother Mary and Miriam are the same character. They're not two independent characters. It's quite confusing. Now, what's also interesting in this Surah of Maryam is just before the birth of Maryam, if you go back before, it refers to the birth of John the Baptist through his father Zachariah and an unnamed wife. Yeah, and then in Luke's Gospel, it's absolutely mirrored. Before you get Maryam and Isa, Jesus, coming on the scene, you have the birth of John the Baptist, but this time through Zachariah the father, and Elizabeth is named this time, the mother. Now, if we look at Christianity as a sect of Judaism, coming from the Gnostic tradition, and I'm aware that the Nag Hammadi texts were written after the 4 canonical Gospels, but it's from an earlier Gnostic tradition. The first Christians were Gnostics, they were ascetics. And it was very much a sect of Judaism, like a rebellion and a continuation of Judaism. Jesus is well accepted in Gnosticism that Jesus was a mythical figure. And as time progresses, he becomes more atomized, more physical. And then, we've got to place him in time and place. We'll put him at the time of the governor Pontius Pilate, and then rename the calendar, 0 BC to 33 AD, whatever. And then that poses a problem. What are you going to do with the Miriam of the Old Testament? Because we've already had a Mother Mary Jesus figure. So what they do, and I'm aware there are 2 Messiahs, son of David, son of Joseph. What as a theory, as a perception, as an idea, that they probably, that story may have originally had Miriam as a mother and with a husband, a mother of divine conception, through divine conception. And they just scrubbed out their children and scrubbed out the husband. And so made Miriam this motherless, childless mother of the Exodus story. And yet Miriam is portrayed in Judaism as arguably the most important prophetess, the most important woman of the whole of the Tanakh. It's a mystery. Then if we look at Islam being a sect of Judaism as well, it honours all the prophets of the Old Testament, of the Tanakh, and the circumcision, halal, pork, all that was phased out in Christianity. That was all there originally. The original Christians were circumcised, but and how the early mosques looked rather like synagogues. What I'm saying here is that the original authors of the Quran, the men that wrote it, remember I'm not a Muslim, so I believe men wrote it. What they're doing there is that what I'm saying is they must have known something about that Exodus story, at least on a mythical level. They must have known that Mother Mary wasn't around at 0 BC, that this story is from the Exodus story in the Torah. And then somewhere down the line, Christianity has created 2 independent figures when they are one figure. I mean, I personally believe they're mythical figures. They should have never existed. They're mythical figures. But what I'm saying is that the Quran does get it right about Mother Mary and Miriam of the Old Testament, that they are one and the same person. They're not independent figures. And thank you very much for joining me. Thank you.